Morgan Fox joins me now. He's a Director of Media Relations with the National Cannabis Industry Association. Morgan, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Morgan, we're talking today about the illicit cannabis market recommendations for safe vaping, a report that your group put out. What is the essence of the concern and what is the essence of the solution?
Well, overall, we wanted to really highlight the fact that the vast majority of these products are coming from the illicit market and recommend ways that we can help displace that market, including creating easier pathways for licensure, eliminating local bans on retail establishments, lowering the barriers of entry and the financial burdens placed on legal regulated businesses, and finding non-criminal enforcement methods for businesses that continue to operate without licenses. But we also lay out a number of areas that we think that state regulators and producers should follow in order to prevent any sort of future outbreaks from happening in the legal market, as well as making sure that illicit market products don't find their way into the legal market supply chain.
I see. So is it safe to assume that vitamin E acetate is not the only culprit in the vape crisis that seems to be embracing some communities?
Well, that seems to be the largest proximate source, but there are several other possibilities that we go into the report, including the presence of heavy metals and other contaminants, the potential for vaporizer delivery devices overheating and inadvertently creating potentially harmful substances. So we address all of that, both the liquid formulation as well as the hardware.
Sure. You make quite an argument for the fact that heavy taxation of legal products is causing black market sources to thrive. To what extent would you say that the black market is still dominating retail customers' buying habits in cannabis products?
Well, it definitely varies from state to state, but it's definitely safe to assume that for a large portion of cannabis consumers, price is really the bottom line. And if legal businesses are unable to compete with those prices, consumers will seek out the illicit market, despite the fact that most cannabis consumers want to purchase legal, tested, and reliable products.
Sure. And it seems to me that the approach to enforcement, state by state, is really inconsistent, and that must have some impact on the ability of the black market to thrive in a cross-state sort of trade. Is that the case?
Well, enforcement has always been relatively arbitrary against the illicit market, even before legal markets started to arrive. And I think that that has been consistent across the board. But what we have seen is that in states that have decided to legalize cannabis, the legal market does take a significant chunk out of it. Again, that varies from state to state. But it's very difficult to be able to keep prices low and competitive when we have issues like inability to access banking services, extremely high federal tax rates because of the 280E tax code, and state and local taxes that are really far beyond what they should be for this industry and dwarf those placed on other industries.
Sure. Tell me a little bit about the National Cannabis Industry Association. When were you founded, and what is the prime sort of motivation behind your organization?
Well, the National Cannabis Industry Association was founded in 2010, and our goal is to create a fair business environment for cannabis businesses in legal states and to promote federal policies that not only treat these businesses fairly, but also cease to prevent states from opening up those markets, with our primary goal being to end cannabis prohibition and remove it from the schedule of controlled substances and have it regulated like other products through the FDA and the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau.
Sure, and I see that you're quite broadly represented across a good swath of the industry. I'm just looking at all of the national policy contributors here. So let me ask you this, Morgan, because it seems like you'd be in a great space to answer this question, and it is widely viewed as the next big macro catalyst in the cannabis space that will drive a recovery in cannabis valuations. When do we expect to see a federal deprohibition strategy implemented in the United States?
I don't necessarily want to put an exact date on it, but I think that this year we're going to see at least some progress on the MORE Act, which would remove cannabis from the Schedule of Controlled Substances, as well as provide restorative justice measures for the communities that have been most harmed by prohibition and expunge federal cannabis criminal records. It's doubtful whether that will be able to make it all the way through the House and certainly not through the Senate in this session. But I think that we're looking at least some form of descheduling bill, making it across the finish line sometime in the next 2 to 5 years.
Great, Morgan. I appreciate your contribution. It's a great update. We'll have you back soon. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.